Welcome to What Resonates. This podcast is about tuning into energy, intuition, and what feels true for you. Each conversation invites you to notice what sparks curiosity and feels aligned, opening a wider field of possibility for yourself and for humanity. Keep tuning in and follow What Resonates. Welcome to What Resonates. I'm your host, Andrea Kennedy, and I have a returning guest today I'm really excited about here at What Resonates. And that's a great question for us to delve into today because we're actually going to talk about the spiritual community and some of the things going on, some of the waves that have happened recently. And I get to have this conversation with Tera McAmis. And you may know her from previous episodes of the show all the way back. I mean, going years. So I'm always having fun when I talk to Tera, and she makes me think about really cool things. And so that's why I like to share our conversations with you. And Tera, if you're new to her, she's a quantum energy practitioner and teacher. She works with people who are awakening spiritually, and she offers sessions. But she has something brand new as well, and that is the Institute of Conscious Evolution. So even if you know her from previous episodes, this is new. She is pushing into territory, I think, that can help so many people. And because she's a fan of the show and she loves our audience, she's put together a special offer just for you. You can find out all the details in the show notes and find out how Tera is making it easier for you to connect with her and receive the support and healing and perhaps enlightening information. She's going to help you do that. So check the show notes and find out more, and let's see what resonates in today's conversation. Hi there, Tera. It's so great to see you.
Hey, Andrea. It's glad to see you too.
Yeah, this is a timely topic. And the last episode you were on, we talked about you're the fire horse and all the energetic changes and things, and that was timely as well. So people are talking recently about some kerfluffles in the spiritual community. You know, we see things on social media and different offers that people have and different conversations and podcasts. And I wonder if you might let people in on what sparked us getting together and talking about this. I mean, why is this an important topic for you?
Oh, goodness. It's for so many reasons because I think for me, spirituality isn't a practice, it's a foundation for my life, my living, my purpose. And I think it is for most people too. It's deeply personal and sacred. And we have come into an exciting place since COVID where spirituality has just bloomed. You know, everybody is waking up and it's trendy even in a sense, which that's a loaded word at many times, but for this, it's such opportunity, but also for good stuff, for people to wake up, to connect deeper, to work on inner healing. But it's also opportunity for our less discerning or our less, what's the word I want to use? I hate using the darker side because I think that's not an appropriate term. It's an opportunity for others who have less scruples to make a name, build their ego, or make money. And so I think we're in a place where we really have to learn how to be discerning. We can't just trust walking into the church anymore or wherever we may go to find that. We have to really look because it's everywhere and know what we are choosing, what resonates with our own truth.
Yeah, and maybe even look back at our own patterns, right? About what have we invested in the past that and how did that turn out for us? But yeah, you know, if I look back myself, I mean, gosh, even when I was young, if I watched an infomercial on TV, oh, I was buying the thing. I mean, I was such an easy target all the time and so trusting. And that was well before social media and everything else. And nowadays with influencers and stuff like that, and you brought in the thing about making money, I guess maybe in the I don't know, previous decades, it was more about pushing books and workshops and things like that. But now with social media, I think it's really amplified that division between authenticity and really trying to help people in that authentic way, and then the other side about the making money. But it's hard because that's what we're pushed to do. And if you want to spend a lot of time in this space helping people, you have to make money to keep it going. So it is difficult maybe to juggle that. But so recently, who's gotten your attention out there as far as the light shining on them?
The good light or
Oh,
oops,
well,
word, the
well,
shadows.
well, I would
Just
say,
kidding.
looking at it a different
Yeah.
way.
I think the biggest thing I've heard a lot from my clients and just that I've been paying attention to because it hit me personally were when the Epstein files came out and all the names that were in it. We expected to see politicians and maybe some rock stars or movie stars, but there are quite a few spiritual names in there and or life coach names, people that we look to better our life. And that was discerning. That was concerning, I should say, not discerning. Concerning because wait a minute, their stuff helped me. So was it right? Was it wrong? Where the biggest name was Deepak Chopra, and I'm sure many of your listeners and you've heard of. We all know who he is, right? He and Oprah are kind of synonymous. They came up together in the '90s, and so did I. In my early adulthood, looking for myself, and his book, Seven Laws of Success, was a huge eye opener. It was one of the first books that I went, oh, I can have charge of my life. Oh my gosh, there's a different way than what I'd been traditionally taught or even dysfunctionally taught, being brought up in the home that I was in. And so to find out that he was so close with Epstein kind of broke my heart. It wounded my spirit a little, and I had to sit with that. And I've had other clients ask me about it, and friends and people. So I think that's a really big deal because if that's our foundation, those people, those are gurus, quote unquote. How do we reconcile that within our own personal paths and what we believe now? So.
Yeah, that's interesting because what came up in my mind there was because we might we might not even realize it, but I think it makes us question if we're then damaged or if we're then tarnished, because if we bought into some of the ideas, which the ideas could be great, but if we follow that, if we were helped by the information that they brought forward and we internalize that information and then maybe even build from there somehow, our relationships change. And, maybe we were telling people like, oh, you've got to check out this person's books. And, oh, it helped me, because I think a lot of us do that. We find something that we resonate with and then we share it, because we want to help other people. So we become ambassadors in a way. And then something like this happens. Don't you think that makes us question our worth?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It really, I questioned mine for a moment there. He really was a big part of my awakening, if you'll say, and my discovery of who I am and really shaped the way I took my path into spirituality and into my energy work and my soul purpose and the whole 9 yards to where we are sitting today talking. And so is there something tainted in there? Am I broken? Am I missing a piece? And what I found was no. Yes, there's things still to work on. Don't get me wrong. We all always have that. But um, I I think for a lot of it, I don't think he was tarnished then. I think he was just another human who was working on his stuff. And he had good insight and he shared it. And I got to share it with others. I was worried that I promoted him to so many clients over the years. What were they going to think of me then if I'm associated? I thought, that's That's not fair. I stand on my own. And I stand by what I shared about him. I think his work is good. I think he has personal issues that he had not worked on. And maybe the ego and the limelight and being put on a pedestal um, distracted him from doing his own work. And so he took those wounds the other direction. I don't justify any of that, but I have to remember he was a human too. We're all humans and we all have good parts and we all have parts we need to work on. And if we don't work on them, they tend to grow. So,
And then reach a point of, facing them, dealing with them, reconciling them. And I think we can all kind of relate to that. I like this idea too, that you just brought up. It's kind of like the spectrum. We tend to want to place everything black and white, good, bad, and that kind of thing. And I think this is just a great example to bring all that back down to a grounded place that there's no such thing. We're all works in progress. We all have light and shadow and all the stuff. And this questioning ourselves because we followed or promoted people, yeah, we have to get away from that, because what I think that does is it can erode our self-trust. And then that to me is the kryptonite, because if we don't trust ourselves, you know, how can we ever progress? How can we ever really make progress? But yeah, so I think we've even said on the show before, the age of the guru's over, you know? I think so. But social media, I think, has played a big role in this. And I'd like to get your take on it, because to boil it down for me, what's coming to my mind right now is I think that it's so easy for us to confuse visibility with credibility. And I wonder if you have some thoughts about that.
I like the way you put that. Confusing the visibility with credibility. I'm going to remember that and I'm going to use it. That is so true. And I think it is in this day of social media where it's everywhere we turn. It is such a part of every part of our life. Social media is involved somehow. And it's real easy from what I've just learned that you can buy likes. You can look more popular than you are. I'm like, wish I could have done that in high school. No, just kidding. That's what I thought. Like, that's not fair. But I think also with the algorithms, if you click on somebody, you're going to keep seeing. And so sometimes we get stuck in our own loop, and they say a bias loop, but it's also just kind of a visibility loop. And we don't see beyond that narrow spectrum. And so we think, oh my gosh, this is the trend. They must be it. They're everywhere. And the memes are cute and the pictures sound good and the videos are fun. And it gives you that quick instant feel good. So, we dive into it without discerning, are they really speaking what fits us, where we're at? And also, are we really doing the work, or are we just getting those quick little highs off of our little reels and videos and whatnots? So I think it's really important that we learn, especially when we start waking up, that we're so vulnerable. We realize, we come out of the dark shadow of, the dark night of the soul. We realize so much of what we are believing and living doesn't fit us, or is false, or it needs to be altered. We're blank slates. And we hop on social media, or we see something on YouTube and it feels good and we just jump right in, right? Like, I know that's what I did of course, I didn't have social media. It was books at our little esoteric store, or Oprah, Remembering the Spirit, at 4 o'clock every weekday. But it was that whatever you could get. And if we don't learn early on there how to discern what's really working or what's good, we might take a path that we've got to really alter way later. And that's a tough spot to be in, because when you're seeing things and social media is propagating it and and it looks like it's perfectly easily just slide that way without questioning things.
Yeah, because I think we've used the word vulnerable, for people are vulnerable. And especially I think in the spiritual space, because, they might be going through grief. especially this waking up, coming out of the illusion of, they thought things were a certain way and then they learn it isn't that way. They might feel misled, betrayed. They might have grief about the death of how they thought things were. And that's pretty raw. I think it's then natural to seek like minded people for validation, for comfort, for a way forward out of that. And maybe, I think that goes to what you were saying. You go and you find people saying things that can help you in those ways, but then nobody's perfect. So even when you find the sources that do help give you comfort and new ideas and inspirations, maybe they feel good to you. Well, it's not 100%, right? And I think we just need to remember that. And then, so what are the red flags, do you think? Can we break down some red flags of, so if people are out, looking at books, looking at workshops, retreats, social media, what kind of red flags do you think we could talk about that would help people?
That's a great question. And I think it's so important. And I sure wish I had this list back in the day, and I especially feel for people now and needing it. I think there's a few. One is they always look perfect and nothing's wrong. I figured it out and now I have all this abundance. I have nobody's life is perfect. It might be good, but when they say they've worked this program or done this retreat and now everything has changed. No. It's just like the people on social media that only post all the pretty shots. Really, what's the house really look like behind you? I promise you got a chair full of clothes. You didn't dust the whole. They're not real human. I mean, if they appear idealistic, it's too good to be true, I would say. I think also if they're really, especially in the social media realm, if they're always on all the time, like, all there is this, if that's all you're seeing, I would say it's not necessarily a red flag about them, but you've gotten locked into your narrow visibility loop. And so branch out because you're only getting that. And we see enough things over and over and over. We want them. We like them. That's marketing 101, right? Um, and then another big one, and this kind of goes with everything we write, is that they're never wrong. They never, they don't talk about the hard work. They don't talk about their own mistakes. Because if they're presenting themselves as a guru, run, run, because they may not believe they ever have mistakes. We call those narcissists, I believe, not spiritual leaders. And I think that's an important thing to look for. And often we don't. We're looking for what matches us, what we want to hear. And we don't always hear, or we don't always hear the void in there. What are they not talking about? What do we not necessarily want to hear, but we need to hear? And then also, is everything happy, positive? When you're in the workshop, do you get a high off of it, or did you get depth of change? Because that high, it's great, but it's not real transformation.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that a little bit more as well, because it feels really good. I've gone to retreats before. I mean, 22 years ago, something like that. 20, no, 25-ish years ago. I was going to different workshops and I didn't realize it at the time, but that organization that I was involved with, it was not great. I mean, it had aspects of it that were helpful and good, but then it did have a shadow to it. And I'm not going to name names or do any of that kind of thing. But what I will say is, I was in it, I was really in it for a while. But it felt awesome to go to the workshops, I have to say.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, what do you see like that nowadays?
Well, I would say going to the workshop, yes, the birthday party was awesome. The cake, the ice cream, everything. That's not how you live, right? It's a
Mm,
celebration of life. It's a celebration of community. And that is a needed aspect in our world for sure. But it is not spiritual life. It's not the depth of really living, healing, transforming, ascending, all that stuff that we really came for. So you might get some of that in some workshops. I am not dogging workshops. I'm just saying that high piece, right? You got to be careful not to get addicted to it. I'll say also really quick, a lot of folks come into the spiritual path from a place of recovery of addictions. And so that's an incredibly dangerous thing, is to switch whatever that external addiction was there to this external, right? It's still an external addiction of retreat or a high, right? The meditation high. It's great. Love it. Need it. But in balance. So, um, that I think is an important point to kind of make in this and really think about that vulnerability. When we or folks we know are looking and seeking and can help guide them in that way. Um, what did you just ask me? I went off on a whole nother spot, didn't I?
no, I asked you
uh,
about the workshop high and what you're
okay.
seeing and that kind
Okay.
of thing.
Yes. Yes. That. So what I am seeing a lot of these days is a bit of, there's actually community I have found through some of clients I've worked with and other people I talk to. They're like workshop hopping, and there's whole communities of people that literally almost live year round, workshop to workshop, and they'll spend 3 months here in this community, and then they move over here, and then they go to a workshop here in Bali, and then over here in, I don't know, England, whatever it may be. I mean, all over the place. But there are communities of people, and there's Facebook pages you can jump on, and there's spiritual festivals for 3 days, and it's all centered around the high. And what it makes me think of is my days following the Grateful Dead as a hippie. Yeah, there was a lot of high. And it was beautiful, and I don't regret those days, but that was definitely a period, and it wasn't a depth of, I wasn't doing inner work. I was just celebrating life. And so I think there's that
Right.
balance between the two, and I was escaping the world also. And I think that's the biggest piece we don't realize. When we spend all of our time and our spiritual practice is all somewhere else from our daily life, we're escaping. Sure, an
Mm.
escape for a deep introspection is important, but we have to bring back what we learn and apply it in our life. And that's where we really get the growth and transformation from what I experience and see.
Yeah, I think those are great points. I think what comes to mind too for me, if I think about red flags,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe mm, a person who doesn't like to be questioned, you know, like takes live, they won't do live questions or something, so that their engagement is limited to certain, mm, I don't know, certain kind of platforms, certain kind of parameters. And so they get to really control how people hear them and what they see from them. So it's kind of guarded.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's an idea. Um,
Definitely. It's a good point.
and somebody who wants to be, who invites questions, I think
Mm-hmm.
is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And maybe part of that, what goes with that is, I don't know.
Yes.
It's funny because I tell my students, who take the Reiki classes from me, um, I tell them, never be afraid to say, you don't know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because we don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
That's just part of it.
I love that. I think it's so important. And it can be hard at times when, you know, well, first with the people that are scripted always, there's something suspicious there. They may know that narrow lane really well, But if they're afraid to go out and say they don't know or explore further, there's something off there. They're guarding and they're hiding something, you know. Of course, we have to have our healthy boundaries, right? But
Hmm.
that's completely different. But asking questions and saying you don't know, or I need to learn. That's something new. Let's explore it is a powerful piece. And I know it can be hard. I know even when I first started doing this, some of my clients look to me as, or I was doing workshops back then too, that just little funny things. And I would feel like they expected me to know. And I didn't want to disappoint them. And
Right.
and I didn't want them to think that I was less than if I didn't, and that was my people pleasing. That was my own inner work I had to look into and discover that no, I'm not supposed to know everything. I'm here to learn just as well. And oh, do I learn from my clients and my peers and my colleagues. And being able to say that is powerful, and it also gives other people permission to not know and to learn too. When you start thinking you know everything, that's when you don't know a darn thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think this is important too. And I think that is that it's complicated because when you were just talking, what I thought of was, you had said your people pleasing caused you to respond in a certain way. And so it could be your own issue, that you're dealing with. It's not necessarily manipulation or like it just happens kind of by accident. You don't mean to mislead somebody. You don't mean to um appear as though you know it all. It's just but that other kind of thing sneaks in the side door that supports you in responding in that certain way, right? So there are a lot of different reasons why somebody offering spiritual services, classes, workshops, there are a lot of different reasons that they might come across this way. And so there's no simple answer. It could be personal um personal issues, right? That they're dealing with, common ones, people pleasing, fear of abandonment, maybe wanting to matter, and also a drive to just really be helpful, and they care and they want to help, but it's just not in the healthiest of ways. And then you can add in the money aspect too, right? That's on top of it all. And then the marketing and all of that. And whew, that just is something else, right? We've seen that a lot in the influencer culture, which I think is just it's about run its course, I think. I think people have really caught on to it. Um and how it all works. And yeah, you can buy likes and but visibility, like like we said, visibility doesn't mean you're trustworthy. It just means that there's been some engagement on what you're putting out. And then the other thing I would say about that is investigate, because there are so many bots out there and so many different things behind the scenes that a content creator can utilize that are not above board, and they can inflate their numbers and that kind of thing. So, just a quick tip for people: look at who you follow and go back on their feed and see, are people really commenting? Do they have real engagement? They might have a million followers, but like two comments on a post. So that's going to tell you a couple of things. Number one, maybe not all of those followers are actual people. And number two, um, they're not highly engaged followers. So even if they're real people, something got them there, but then they don't interact. And isn't that a red flag? So it's just not the number of likes or the number of subscribers or whatever. It's what's the quality of the interaction. Are people really there? And no, that's not a litmus test either, but it is interesting, Not that I'm suggesting people spend more time on social media. That's not what I want to say either. But are you on social media, Tara? And I'd like to get your take on that because I know people in our audience, they have taken a lot of spiritual classes, they've taken a lot of workshops, and I'll bet a lot of them are either thinking about offering their services professionally or they already do. And social media is a huge question for people, especially in the spiritual space, because it's kind of icky to be putting yourself out there. However, the question is, isn't it kind of needed today? But I don't know. I'm so conflicted over it. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's messy. It's complicated for sure. I love what all you said because I don't know all those red flags. In fact, I was learning them as you were saying them about the bots and the different looking for how many messages and because I don't do a lot of social media actually. I have my personal Facebook page. I attempted an Instagram. I can never get logged in, so that's never happened.
Maybe that's the universe telling you,
I
right?
think so. Every so often I'll try again. Forget it. But it's just a personal page. It's mostly, I keep up with my distant friends, and I watch silly shows or little reels. I know are AI. I know because there's silly dogs doing things, right? And knowing that, okay, it's not real, but it's an entertainment escape. But from a work standpoint and from a spiritual standpoint, I don't do media. I tried in the beginning because I was told you needed to. Um, Now, I started what I do pre COVID. So, very different setup than a lot of folks starting now. It wasn't as needed, but also it was a lot more person to person work and talking. But I tried it a few years later once COVID hit and we all kind of shut down. I need to engage. This would be a great way to give messages. And it did not work for me. I found myself getting crazy checking it, feeling this responsibility and this um, obsession in a sense. It was like, and it just didn't work. So I stopped. I also found for what I do, the work I do is incredibly in depth and it's very deep and interpersonal. So people are not looking for me when they're scrolling on social media. They're looking for something lighter or they're looking to to learn something or to do something. So it makes sense for a lot of folks. It doesn't make sense for me so much right now. um, so I don't do it. I haven't done any marketing ever other than talking with folks, sharing information, things like that, because that works for me. And I had to learn that and I had to let go of the pressure actually. And still people like, oh, you've got it. And I'm like, no, you might, I don't. And I think that's a big piece. It was a big learning curve for me in my own discernment and finding out what's my truth. Now, as I'm growing and we're doing some other things coming up, probably will be an aspect because it'll be needed there, but it's different than what I do now. So yeah, I think that's a big thing for everyone is to find out what works for them, how it works, and what level of it too. There are a few people I see that post long, beautiful things. I will read them, but I'm pretty sure most people won't take the time to click and read the whole the whole
Yeah.
post. Because
Yeah.
you're there to scroll and to fill that instant gratification mostly, for what I
Yeah.
find.
Well, that's
Yeah.
just it too. I was having a conversation recently and it came up that I'm the one who does all the comments on my social media and all the YouTube um, because I just can't bring myself to have another person like pretend they're me or something. Now, I guess um, they could be transparent, and I know a lot of creators do this where it's their team that responds, and they might even say like Sophie from the mainstream Reiki team or whatever. I just made up that name, but they'll, for example, put sort of a disclaimer on there, or a flag on there saying it's not the actual person, and that's cool. But I don't know. I just feel like something's lost then in there, and maybe I'm just overthinking it. Maybe it doesn't matter, but I answer almost all my emails. I say almost because um, I do have a little bit of help back here. So but for the most part, and for my students who email me after class, that is me 100%. So I think when we try to be in integrity, it is really hard because there's only so much time in the day. So the other thing is spiritual type of, uh, the spiritual kind of work that we do, it's different. We're not selling widgets. So the whole marketing thing is just set up for selling widgets, not what we do. And again, I think people listening or watching on YouTube could so relate to this because it's kind of this catch 22 quandary. It's like, is it authentic to even be on social media and do these things? And the last few months, I've been doing less and less on there, and just, utilizing older content and things like that. But gosh,
You
it
know,
it's a struggle.
when the path that I started with, this meditation path that I've now kind of taken, adapted, and made into this entire energy work thing, um, a big piece of what they always said is you never charge for your work. And back when I started, that was a big deal. I mean, only psychic, 800 numbers charged, and they were fake, which probably still are. I don't know, but that piece was a big deal, that you could trade, you could accept gifts, but you never charge, because that's where the ego gets in. And which I understand that line of thinking. And back whenever, I would sit in my little hut and people would bring me, goat's milk and rice and chop my wood for me. Hey, it worked great. But today we don't, our energy exchange is dollar currency. And so we have to utilize that. And I remember when I was starting, in fact, there are people from that group that still won't speak with me because they feel I have, you know, I went against the values. And I respect that. I respect what they're thinking. I sat for a long time with my guides, talking to others, and had to come to a place of, if I'm going to do this, I can't work full time. Because as you know, this work it takes a lot of energy and focus. And if you're really going to dive deep into it and assist others, you really have to put all of you into it. Every bit of me goes into this. And so I had to stop being a librarian, but I still have an electric bill and, food I like to eat, and people don't bring me rice unless I get sick of it. But, there was this whole piece of, it was a big spiritual conundrum that I had to sort out. And I decided I would do, I started charting. It was so cheap. I mean, it was embarrassingly, but looking back, also, inflation type stuff. But thinking about that and going back through that today, I look at, I'm like, I decided I would not market, but I would talk about it. I would share, and I would only charge what I needed for my income, to make that. And then I started learning. Wait a minute. I'm giving more of myself than I'm receiving, and I'm getting exhausted. And I think this is part of that old paradigm, is we need a balanced energy exchange, because I'm not healing you. We're working together. You're investing in your healing and your own growth, and you need to invest equally. It needs to be a balanced energy exchange. And so I've shifted my thinking on that. But I think today we're almost gone too far, and it can be a big business, and people feel sometimes like they are good at what they do and successful because they've made a lot of money and a big name for themselves. And that that hurts my heart because it is a balance, but we have to continually do an inner check. I think you do an amazing job. I so admire and I'm completely dumbfounded at how you balance social media and the videos, YouTube videos are quality, it's value, it's real. You can feel it. I mean, I'll often put them on and just lay down and take a nap and fall asleep because I can hear the authenticity and the energy of you. And that frequency is beautiful. It's very rejuvenating. But how do you
Thank
do
you.
that and not get sucked in? I mean, I'd be
I
up all
don't
night
know.
trying to answer every comment. So
Yeah.
it's, I think it's a tough one for people, but it's worth us all doing our own inner gut check, you could say, and doing it continuously to make sure we're in balance with our truth if we're taking this into the world. And then if we're absorbing it, we have to do the same thing. We need to, I expect my clients and our participants are to be sitting here if they're listening to us today and going, does that really sit with me or not?
Yeah.
Because, and maybe it doesn't. That's okay. Email me. We can chat if you like to. I mean, I'm open.
Yeah, I think it is really good to talk about this. And I think, well, and thank you again, for your kind words. I live and breathe this. This is everything I do. And I just finished teaching in person in Ann Arbor for 10 days. And the guidance that I've received, not just from the students, but in that energy was to do more in person. And I, I reluctantly, as I shake my head, am trying to figure that out now, following the guidance. So I'm not over here with some grand 5-year plan about, growing the business or whatever. I think that things have worked out for me in a certain way so that more people could know about me so that they could hear the messages that I'm sharing and things like that. Um, but a lot of it, I don't really know how it all happened, kind of thing. But I do have a couple people. I've 3 people that help me do things to make the content and to get it out to people and to help me behind the scenes. I'm super grateful, and that in and of itself is so special to have people around you that share the vision, right? And you, with your institute and developing your institute, you could speak on that too, because I think, you've had some ideas about doing things like this in the past, but, the timing, of course, is always perfect, isn't it? And so, um, yeah, I don't know. This isn't what I planned on talking about so much, but tell us a little bit about, and maybe it is because let me circle back real quick and let's reframe this. Because we set out to talk about integrity, spiritual integrity, um, using discernment, how to know, um, how to know where to invest your focus so that it's actually helpful for you and not detrimental. So I think I'm going to try to frame this into that because you had ideas about your institute for a long time and you could have run with it because you're like, maybe at the time you would have thought, nope, I got to get this out there because I got to pay the electric bill. I'm putting it out there. I don't really care, and force that. And I call that square peg, round hole. But, when the aligned time to do that, which has been later, allowed for a more organic process and time for you to learn and grow in the process, right? So that when you do get around to actually creating it, it's in a way, and I'm going to use this word, you can correct me if you don't like it, but it's like divinely ordered. Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about that
Oh,
process or whatever's sticking out in your
yeah.
mind.
Yeah, it has been a long time coming, and I've had a lot of bumpy attempts and start practice rounds, I will call them, of getting to this place. And I think that's what they were exactly, were practice, feeling it out. But we are launching, and I say we, I have finally found my soul partner, and I feel like we probably started planning this before we both incarnated this life, and now we've come together to do it. Her name is Tori, and she and I are launching the Institute of Conscious Evolution. So, and the idea behind this is it's been in so many ways my life work culminating. But like you said, it had to be in divine timing. I had everything I needed to line up so that not just were we ready, but the information, the material was ready. And then also the participants that I hope to come are ready. And it's all about evolving our consciousness in a sense. I mean, that's literally the institute, right? But it's about how we constantly are evolving consciously. So we're learning how to do that discernment by learning and understanding our own energy systems. And it's a mega project, that is for sure. Um, that starts with our flagship program, the Elevation 361, and that is 361 is 360 degrees of the circle. The next degree is going up in the spiral, so it's Elevation 361. Also sounds kind of cool, like Elevation 4,000 or whatever, up the mountain. So, anywho, um, that actually came to me. My guides showed me that was the name, and I've had it for a while. And I think we've talked before about it, but it wasn't right. The timing wasn't right, and I think a lot of that was what we've just been talking about is the discernment piece needed to come out in spirituality. The trendy needed to subside. The influencer, the mark, we need to not just be waking up to what's out there, but waking up to making our own judgment of what works for us, and kind of, it's just like anything I think that gets trendy. I remember back when there were Cabbage Patch Kids and you couldn't buy one for Christmas, they were all sold out, and then all of a sudden the next season there's thousands of them, and there's all these makes and models and fakes and takeoffs, Beanie Babies, you name it. I know I'm dating myself, aren't I?
I'm right there with
Okay.
you, I have to say.
But that happens, and that's the same thing we've got going here. But that's all subsiding, and we're coming back to the realness, the origins of that spiritual ascension and inner work. So we have designed a 4 level. Elevation 361 is a 4 level program. It has 4 classes, or 4 programs with multiple classes, to teach you how you've been conditioned, to help you understand, the beliefs we have and how to decode that, whether it's ours or not, the conditioning, the patterns, the cycles, and learn what is yours. And then move on into what I call the self mastery, where we're literally not mastering any sort of, it's not philosophical. This is very practical anatomy of the human energy system. How do you use it? How do you feel it? How do you work with it? So you can make, and then moving on to being of service to others with this work, doing energy work on your own, and eventually maybe even teaching if people really feel called, but teaching what we do. So it's a huge endeavor.
Yeah. And what strikes me when you describe it is your personal investment of your time, of your curiosity, of your practicing, that has helped lay the foundation for where you are now. And I think that is a teachable flag. We're talking about red flags. Well, how about a green flag, a go flag? The
I like that.
the proceed kind of nod, and that would be. I think if we look at the foundation that people come from and investigate their own path. And we might say, well, what about somebody like Deepak Chopra or whatever?
Sure.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
He can sign up for level 1 just like everyone else.
That is so hilarious. Out of everything you could have said, that was totally not on my radar screen. That was awesome. Yeah, he can get in line too and wait.
Absolutely.
Yes, he can. I love it. Oh, that is hilarious. But I guess maybe my point is, it seems like when I look out in the world, it's like everybody's stepping out with, I'm a spiritual medium, I'm a this, I'm a that. And maybe that's true. I don't know. But what's the history there? Did the person, how long have they been doing the work? What have they put out there as far as, any literature, or, or do they write about it? Do they have blog posts?
Right.
Where's the richness there? I think everybody could look into people that way, right?
Absolutely.
And people are waking up though, so I don't want to discount that either. But I think our consciousness, our psyche, our life force energy, those are precious, aren't they? I mean, to trust somebody to tinker around with that and put ideas in our heads, that's a really big decision. And I've seen people just willy-nilly open up to other people. And it may, and not to say that that's bad, but sovereignty. And I always beat this drum, but I think that is one of the, I'm going to say, instead of saying it's a red flag, I'm going to stick with my green flag. I like that better. It's more positive. So I think a green flag is a teacher, somebody who's presenting material in classes, workshops, or whatever it is, that helps you remember your sovereignty, helps you remember that you have the power of discernment. You are the one with the power. Absolutely. That to me is a green flag.
Huge.
This idea of authenticity and integrity and that kind of thing. And maybe we need to say this. People need to remember they deserve that.
They do.
And nothing less.
Exactly. I agree. I think that's a big piece. They do deserve it, and they have the power, the freedom, and the responsibility to pick what fits them, and to say no, and to, I think, investigating someone is deeply critical. I would never give my energy to anyone who I haven't really. I mean, I will have picked through it all. We're doing the whole nine. I want to know your blogs. I want to know your social media. I want to feel you out in every aspect and see what depth you have. Not just training and certifications either. I mean, people can get a lot of classes and you list your certifications, but how do you speak to the work? What are your ethics around it? Do you open and close your energy bubbles safely? Do you, and are you telling me what I want to hear? Are you telling me what you think I should know? Or are you really listening to my energy and working with me to find my answers and to find my healing adjustment, whatever that may be? I think is important. Investigate it. And anybody I always say, if people have questions, email me. I can't help you personally, but I'll answer anything you want. If you don't find it on my blog, hey. And I'll have sometimes new clients go, oh, my sister just loves you. So I just trust you implicitly. You just do what you need. And I'm like, well, first I need to talk to you about that. No, do not give me your trust. Let me earn it. I love my favorite new clients are the ones that are really skeptical, especially even some of the husbands that don't believe in this stuff yet. Because they're going to ask me the hard questions. And then I know they may not be conscious of it, but they're really valuing their own energy. They're honoring and respecting themselves that way. And usually by the end, they're like, whoa, that was cool. I might come back, but don't tell my wife. I don't want to admit it yet, but it's right. It's always, that's I'm right there with you. I think we deserve that. We each do. And that's what we're really coming to. And I think when you spoke about, us being vulnerable when we first wake up, that's the thing is we're trying to find that worth again. And if we can find it earlier on and find that voice, the rest of the path, it's not easy. If anybody done this work, it's not easy, but it's so much more rewarding. So, and I think I should say too, I feel called that, you know, if you've ever done any of that stuff, I know early on, there wasn't a lot of people to trust. So I just went with whatever anybody around me said. The witchy lady at the metaphysical store was our, and yeah, she's a wonderful lady. And for better, for worse, she only had what she had. And I took it as like, oh, because she was so, um, and if someone was wrong and steered me the wrong way, but that's okay, because it's okay to mess up too, is what I'm saying. And, if you've done that, no worries. No worries. Just learn. It's an opportunity to learn.
It is. It really is. I think we need to be okay with making mistakes, whether we're somebody seeking healing, um, and also if we're offering the healing. Yes, it's a little different because we're in a certain role, but you're not going to be perfect either when you start out. But the difference, or even along the way, we can make mistakes. We can make the wrong judgment call. We're not the guru on the pedestal. We're just human. And, you know, it, we are who we are. And so if we can forgive ourselves, we're just doing our best and, you know, we'll make it. We'll make it wherever it is we're going, together. Um, I do really appreciate what you said too, because um, I have found that practitioners are very, and this is just a generalization, but of course, but practitioners can be very worried about how they're showing up energetically and being, oh, do I have permission, and do I have, and they really put a lot of effort into making sure they check all those boxes, and watching their energy, only offering the energy, when they feel like they've checked all those boxes. And one of the things that I've told people lately, that is the negative person in the space. Do you think they're worried about offering their anger, their vibration of anger and whatever?
Right.
They're not. They
No.
don't give it a second thought.
Mm-mm.
So shine your
Mm-mm.
light.
Yeah.
Just, honor other people's sovereignty or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but show up fully. And,
Mm-hmm.
if people don't like your vibe, it's let them walk away, let
Yep.
them whatever. But let's not overthink what we're putting out in the world. If our heart's in the right place,
Yeah.
we need to show up
Mm,
that way.
definitely.
And I don't know.
I love that.
That's kind of a tangent too,
No,
but
I love that. I think it's important, and yeah, for both the practitioner and the client, or the teacher and the student, or whatever it may be, both show up equally, and know that you own your spot there, and speak to it. Some of the best sessions I've had are when people go, I felt that, but now there's something different. I'm like, oh, let's investigate, because they have a
right.
perspective I don't. And when we are in a tandem kind of team bouncing back, I've got chills as I say it. We are like, it just lights me up that it's so powerful, because I'm getting a fuller spectrum, because they're going, as opposed to going, oh, maybe this is how it's supposed to be, or well, she knows better than I shouldn't second guess. I'm like, oh, heck no, second guess, because it's you and your energy, and you really do know it best. You may have been conditioned to think you don't, or it may be a long time since you've connected to it, because you've been, operating over here, which, hey, I speak from that personal experience. But, when you come in and you do that, there's so much more power in the room, because it's not just your practitioner, your leader's power. It's the client and the participants. And those two together double the energy, and you create synergy. That's beautiful. And I think we're coming into that in our new paradigms. We talk a lot about the old paradigm shifting, and I call it, the third phase of the Earth Ascension project we're stepping into. And I think that is all about our own sovereignty, but our equality and our inclusion, and showing up equally in all of this, and recognizing we're both here in this 3D experience, being human, but we're also both striving to be something else, and it's something more, and expand on it. And together we can do it. So I think it's cool. I think it's an exciting new phase that we're moving into. But like all change and remodeling, it's really, really messy. So we just got to be paying attention to the mess and step around it.
Yes. And I say this with you all the time when we get together, and that is I'm so hopeful and excited about the future. And we've talked about some things that are a little icky today,
Mm-hmm.
but it's all coming up for
Yeah,
change.
absolutely.
And when we
Mm-hmm.
take notice and we talk about things, we know what could be better
Yeah,
and how the systems might change. And um, I love your take on things and staying out of social media because it doesn't, work for you. I love
mm-hmm.
that. And what you shared about um, energy exchange,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the system that we're in right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
It's probably changing to something
Of
else,
course.
but we're not there yet.
No.
So, we have to color inside the lines
Right.
to a certain degree, but
Mm-hmm.
it'll all work. But
Well,
I guess my hope for the episode is that people can feel maybe like they deserve to be choosy and they don't have to take everything at face value. Mm,
yeah, absolutely.
and, I hope that they'll look for spaces
Mm-hmm.
in the world and for relationships and communities that support their self trust, their clarity, authority, that
Yeah.
sovereignty. And I guess maybe that's what I would say
Oh, I
about the episode. But
agree.
do you have any last thoughts about this? Anything you really want to drive home
Yeah.
for our
I
audience?
want to ditto what you just said. I mean, absolutely ditto. And that's my hope for what people take away from this episode. And when we started talking about it, and kind of the idea of it being an episode came up, oh, yes, we can empower people with information because there's so much question and worry. Let's take it and use it for that empowerment, because knowledge is, power. And hope people come away with ideas for how they can be discerning and honoring their energy and furthering their own path, whatever that may be. I think that's so powerful. And I am really hopeful myself as well. I'm excited about it. I'm excited this stuff is coming up because I think many of us as empaths have been feeling it, but we couldn't put our fingers on it. And now it's like, oh, okay. And I hope that helps people build a little more trust within themselves that, that was a little icky situation back there you felt. You weren't alone in it. Um, and I would say two quick things. I started out of this because I needed a little more happy and creativity. I started the Lightworkers Loom on my website, and we're weaving tapestry. You put in your weaving, Andrea, and I so appreciate it. And others around, and it's a free, open, easy place for light workers to share how they're weaving light in the world. Um, Connect with clients, connect with practitioners, connect with friends, community, just get inspired. But I like to think of it as more like gleam scrolling than doom scrolling. And it's just, you can just scroll down and just see what people are doing. And so if you need a lift and social media isn't working, feel free. And also I invite all your listeners to send in entries. Have fun with it. Let's build this tapestry so we see the good that's growing. Because I think right now in our shifting, we see a lot more of the demolition than we do the growth and the remodeling. And so that's a place for that. And then also, of course, we have the Institute opening, which is a place to help you learn more in depth on how to be discerning and honor and manage your own energies.
Absolutely. And we'll put your website on the screen where they can find you, also in the show notes and the YouTube description. But just for the people listening, go ahead and say out loud the website for us.
It's elevatedenergies.biz. B-I-Z.
Elevatedenergies.biz.
Yep.
Tera, it's always such a fun time with you. I think that's what it's all about, finding people that help us ponder, help us be curious together, get into a little trouble.
Yeah, good trouble. Nothing wrong with
Good
that.
trouble, yeah. And smile, right? Because I've been smiling this whole time we've been talking. And thanks so much for being here. And I look forward to riding the wave with you and all of us who could use a little bit more light right now. So thanks for making that too on your website, because it is hard to find pillars out there of what's going right.
Yeah.
And so it's a destination that people can find that.
Absolutely. And contribute to it. Let's build a humongous bright light pillar. Why not? I mean,
why not?
That's fun.
Why not?
So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. As always, it was a joy. And I feel more hopeful, and I got all goosebumpy. So, yay. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks. Thank you for tuning in. Keep trusting your truth. Keep listening to your inner wisdom, and keep following what resonates. To sign up for the newsletter, leave a review, or connect, visit whatresonatspodcast.com. You'll also find everything linked in the show notes.